Purdue heads to the Big Ten tournament finals with a rematch with a Michigan awaiting them. But first, they had to get by UCLA, which they did 73 to 66 in this one. We'll break it all down right here on Boilers in the Stands. Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Joe Jackson. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Craig Bowers. Greg Braggs is also at the United Center, underneath, kind of getting interviews with some of the players and coaches underneath. So I'm sure will join us at some point later, and maybe be able to talk about what some of the players and the coaches said and all that. Purdue, I mean, after looking incredibly good against Northwestern and Nebraska, I think we all will all agree this was definitely not close to their A game, probably not their B game, and maybe not even their C game, but they still win. And Painter does a good job of being able to manage minutes in a game that you obviously want to win. Nobody is actively trying to lose this in any capacity, but at the same time, you understand this isn't the end goal. You just kind of like, if you want to give yourself a chance at a Big Ten tournament title, they did what they needed to do. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't the most effective. It's probably not the most confidence inducing game, but at the same time, a win's a win. You preserve some minutes on a lot of your players, and now you get a rematch with Michigan tomorrow. So, Craig, throw it to you. What were kind of your thoughts from this semifinal game against the Bruins?
Honestly, my first thought was, thank God we came out healthy. Because like you see the Donovan Dent injury, and I know, like everybody has different value that they place on different things throughout the season, and some people place more value on the Big Ten tournament than you and I do, Joe. And that's fine. Like if you place more value on that as a fan, um, go for it. I don't think you and I necessarily do. I think the Big Ten regular season, NCAA tournament are the areas that we place more value. And like, I didn't even realize Dent was hurt in that moment, when he went off the court, and later, I guess, goes back to the locker room. It didn't look like anything major at the time, that it happened. But, 3 games in 3 days, the more fatigued, the more sore, the more tight those muscles become, the more chance you have at soft tissue injuries. Soft tissue injuries are lingering, take forever to get over. I've had 2 hamstring injuries on 2 different legs in the last 2 years. I'm older, takes me even longer, but I know how long those things can hang around. So, to me, this ended as perfectly as it could have. None of your starters, other than Smith, play them more than 28 minutes. Smith only has to play 32 minutes, and yet you still come out with a 7-point win. You got contributions from some of your bench guys in major ways today. So like to me, the way it all played out in the end, I'm glad they won, because I would not want to be having I got messages from several different people during the game, and I would not wanting to have this conversation of, did Painter make the right decision, not the right decision, if they ended up losing because he decided to go ahead and rest and focus further down the road. But in the end, he played it right. They come out with the win. They get to play Michigan tomorrow. I'll be real interested to see what his strategy is tomorrow. Obviously, it's there. There's a Big Ten tournament championship that they can go win. But he rested those starters a decent amount tonight, including Smith, and it'll be interesting to see. But I'm 100% with you. This was an ugly win. It was not a pretty game. Thank God for Oscar Clough, because he willed this team to victory in just about every way he could, and he started slow and like misses his first 2 free throws badly, and you could tell his legs were gone too. It looked like Smith's legs were gone today on his shot today. Multiple other guys just looked like they were kind of wearing down a little bit, but nonetheless, thank God for Oscar Clough, because he just dominates the glass in every which way he can. Score 17 points on top of that. We'll get into more individual player breakdowns later. I thought Jack Benner was huge today, a guy who's been able to stay fresher, but his energy, his activity going after loose balls, going after rebounds, knocks down both of his 3-point attempts today as well. For me, those two guys really jumped off the page in this one. And it was our ability once again to just dominate the glass. And obviously that was going to be easier with Bilodeau out than if he was here. But you still have to go out there and do it. And they just absolutely dominated, both in terms of rebounding and offensive rebounding. You get more possessions. It's only a 7-point win. I think in the end, between the turnover margin and offensive rebounds, maybe it ends up being a little bit closer to even, but nonetheless, steal some possessions here or there for second chance points. And the Boilers are able to pull it out. And I get to come back tomorrow. I'm gonna be honest, Joe. I thought I packed enough to stay here through Sunday, but I think subliminally in my mind, I didn't think we were gonna end up here on Sunday because I'm short on like 3 different things, and I'm gonna have to make a Walmart run or something tonight to make it through Sunday or find a place to do some laundry.
Yeah, I mean, what a run from Purdue here, and again, I think just kind of reiterating what you said, they did what they needed to do today, and so now you do give yourself the chance at winning a Big Ten tournament championship. I'm also very curious to see what the strategy will be with that. Again, there's no doubt that like Purdue is not going into the game thinking like we'll maybe lose whatever it's what like they're going to want to win the game. That's no doubt. But if say Michigan gets up 14 points and there's 8 minutes left, like do you start calling off the dogs a bit early or something like that? Or if you're on a run, like do you just ride Braden Smith and try to win it? Do you still just rest him, knowing that at the end of the day, next week and the week after is 10 times more important than what the game happens tomorrow, at least to me. Obviously, depends on how any individual fan or most importantly, how the coaching staff actually feels, right? Because they're the ones actually making the decision. But yeah, for this game, I thought Purdue's energy from the front court is probably what won them this game. And that starts with Clough, 9 offensive rebounds, 17 points, also 14 rebounds total. TKR also has a double double with 10 rebounds. Benner, like you said, was huge, 8 points and 6 rebounds. And in a couple just big time hustle plays from there. Um, you know, Smith had his moments. It wasn't like the best Smith game, and Lawyer is able to knock down enough threes. You're just able to do enough. And I thought there was a definite like this was a grinded out game. The last two games that we've kind of seen Purdue flex a little bit and just be like, hey, yeah, we'll take it to you. And I know the second half a little bit in both wasn't awesome, but this one was more of a grinded out. And if you want to try to win 6 games in March, you're gonna have a game like this at least, if not two or three. Like you're going to have a couple games where you just have to figure things out, and you're not going to be playing anywhere close to your A game. And if you lose, you're done for the season. So this was kind of a trial run for that. And even with UCLA shorthanded, I still think like obviously Purdue is the more talented team, especially when UCLA is shorthanded. But at the same time, like Trent Perry's a dude, Sky Clark's a dude, Eric Daly can go off in any given game. Like it's not like UCLA was 1000% deprived of talent, and Purdue's still able to again just do enough to survive and advance. Right? That's the saying you always hear in March. And Purdue was able to do that for this one. So it's good to see them be able to string 3 wins. There's like it seems like there's chances of them maybe being able to climb up to a 2 seed, and that's honestly for me personally, and I'm not saying everybody has to think this way. Like I think I don't think there's a right or wrong way to really think about how you view the Big Ten tournament in that. For me, like there's a chance that they can get a 2 seed now, and that might be bigger than like actually playing in the Big Ten tournament championship to me. Just um, there's a chance they're going to have St. Louis, the St. Louis pod in the first 2 rounds, which is obviously a much closer drive for Purdue fans. So, things have kind of broken right so far for Purdue. And hey, now you get a chance to go tomorrow, try to avenge a home loss to Michigan in a game that, if we remember, like Michigan shot lights out. Michigan was the better team for sure, but Purdue just got off to a super slow start and could never really come back. You get a chance to try to avenge that. If you win, you get some hardware and some good vibes going into March Madness. So it'll be good to see and interesting to see, and I'm excited for the game. But there's obviously still a lot to talk about in this one first, so we'll get into some of that coming up shortly. You have anything else for kind of large takeaways you want to hit on?
Just real quick, since you did bring it up around seed lines, because I I've had this conversation on Twitter with multiple people in here, and I don't, from the conversations I've had with kind of the bracketology people that we talk to, and just in general, that I even with a win over Michigan, I think the chance at a 2 is really really slim. Seed lines tend to be fairly relatively set at this point. There are some contingency brackets and whatnot. A lot of those contingencies have to do around with where you sit on your seed line, or if it's a really really close. Um, before if it's super close between like the last 3 and the first 4 or something like that, then maybe there's a contingency there. But I did just reach out. Hopefully Brian's okay with me saying this on air, because I text him when you said that, just because I wanted to confirm. Said chances at a 2. If we beat Michigan, slim. The game gets over 15 minutes before the reveal. In the past, the result hasn't mattered. They would say they have contingencies, but they usually don't actually. So, but what I think we all are playing for, there was still a decent amount of people that were on the fence from a bracketology standpoint about whether Purdue's the first three or the second three. And that's big because Illinois is the one you're competing with for that first three. And if Purdue's the first three, like you said, then you get St. Louis. And then it's much, much easier from a travel standpoint for fans and everybody else to get there. Not that Delphi bracketology is the end all be all completely when it comes to that, but they are the source that we trust the most that we have on the show. So that's just what kind of what he's saying there. I do want to go ahead and just recognize the super chat. Jason Depew says, we'll have to watch later. Thank you guys for the content. Everyone hit the like button. What a game by the big guys today. 100% agree. Also, I just want to thank the chat. There's been about 15 different recommendations about how I can make my underwear last longer since I forgot to pack enough clothes, whether that's turning it inside out, airing it out, whatever. So appreciate all you guys. Thank you for helping me get through till Sunday.
Yeah, Craig and I'm assuming Braggs as well will be sticking it out one more day. I guess Braggs doesn't live too far of a drive from here. I will be heading home, won't be at the game tomorrow, just with everything going on for Selection Sunday. We'll still be on the post game show. We'll have to I will just throw this in here now. We'll have to, I assume, have a Boilers in the Stands meeting, which there's a 50-50 chance it just happens on air later in the show once Braggs get on of what we're going to actually be doing tomorrow. Because right, post game show runs like kind of directly into Selection Sunday, and we usually do a Selection Sunday show. So maybe we're going to be delaying the post game show a bit and just kind of morphing it all into one. Maybe we'll have two shows. I don't know. We'll be live. I can promise you that much. I don't know what the capacity. I don't know the amounts, but we'll be live tomorrow in some way, shape, or form. Let's get back into this one, right? With Purdue again being able to get the closer 73 to 66 win, a game that like I don't know. I don't know how you felt. There was never any like major concern Purdue would lose. There was definitely moments of like, oh, what's kind of happening here, but never of like, never any point where it's just like, oh man, Purdue just like they lost it, they're done. That's kind of how I felt, and um, I don't know. You get some good reps for some of the younger guys in a game that is meaningful. Uh, it's just one of those. It was just a weird game. Even just the vibe in here, it wasn't like and maybe it was just because there maybe it was more Michigan and Wisconsin fans like the and that was a little bit better game in general, especially down the stretch. Just like the energy in here felt off to me from where I was sitting, and I don't know, it just felt weird overall.
Yeah, I didn't ever really have the point where I was worried about whether Purdue was going to win this game or not. Obviously, when it was tied, you're like, "Whoa, how did that happen?" A couple of turnovers and a couple of breakdowns kind of lead to that. In that moment, Braden comes back into the game pretty quickly, although he had a couple turnovers as well and kind of critical moments at different times in this one that allowed it to get a little bit closer also. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like it did feel weird. It felt more like Purdue was just like again, very business-like workman approach. Let's go through. We're the better team. We're gonna figure out a way to beat them. Shots aren't just going in like crazy, but let's go about our business. We'll get this done type of game. Didn't seem like crazy energy in the arena or on the court at certain points in times in this one. I'm not saying that they were taking anything off or not, but again, your third game in 3 days, it's harder to get that energy there when you've been playing some of the minutes that these guys have been playing. For me, like yeah, you got some of your younger guys, some moments where in some minutes where they could kind of feel themselves out a little bit more. The only point in time in this game, Joe, where I started to get a little worried, there were like 3 plays in a row. UCLA is really good at shooting that kind of mid-range shot. And like kind of the way Purdue was defending them, it was giving them that. And I think Freeney and Daly, there was like a series of 3 plays where it felt like Perry, Daly, Freeney all just rose up from like 15 foot. And with their size, not Perry so much with his size, but Daly and Freeney just rose up with their size and shot over our smaller defenders that were on them and hit shots. And I was like, oh, is it gonna be one of this 10-minute stretches where They just hit every 8 to 10 footer in sight, and we can't do anything about it because they've got 4 inches on our guys. That was really the only moment I was worried. We did a good job on Dent when he was in the game. I thought in this one he only was only in there for 10 minutes. Also, just say like I really really hope Donovan's okay for the NCAA tournament. He's been playing so. He was so like highly like people were so looking forward to him in the Big Ten and at UCLA coming into the season and really hadn't panned out until the last month in terms of like the expectation of what he was supposed to be. And he's played so good down the stretch. And I want to see him be able to go to the NCAA tournament and try to make a run. So
Yeah, and
hoping he's healthy.
it's all reports.
Oh,
All report. All reports show right now that like it seemed very minor, but it was like a calf, and you just don't want to mess with that. And same thing with Bilodeau. I think it obviously they'll probably know more like tomorrow on that, but I do agree. I want to see Dent because this UCLA team has been playing really really well ball, a really really good ball as of late. So yeah, hopefully he's healthy. It seems like him and Bilodeau should, but that's where right that's where this Big Ten tournament's just so weird that you're playing so many games close together, and like you do obviously want to win, but you understand there are much much bigger fish to fry in just like 5 days, and so you have to be able to balance that. And you saw both coaching staffs have to do that a little bit today in this one. Let's get into the rotation. I'll throw that up here. And obviously, as we've kind of hit on a little bit already in this, is there's a lot more run for the young guys. Meyer closes the last 11 minutes of the first half. Braden sits the last 6 minutes of the first half in this one. And then he also sits, I have it down as 2 minutes in the second half, but it was like basically 2.5 minutes, I think. Um, you do see the starters close the final like 6 or 7 minutes of the game, but the first half specifically, you get a long stretch from Jakar, you get a long stretch from Meyer, you get Benner closing. I mean, the closing lineup was Meyer. It was basically next year's lineup minus excluding Clough, of Meyer, Jakari, CJ, Benter, and then Clough, and I guess Bender. Next year's lineup is a little, I don't know, but we both think Benner's probably long term at 3. So, um, but just saying, like the guys that will be contributing next year, and I mean they did a fine job. The from the minutes that Braden sat, Purdue is what +3 in those last 6 minutes. It's not like they lost a ton of ground. Still able to figure things out, and so I don't know. We've kind of already hit on it, and I'm sure we'll hit on it more as we get into some of the players in that too. But do you have anything specific you want to touch on for the rotation?
I mean, no. Like we've already talked about the fact that it was clear that Painter was, making an effort to try to get the starters rest. The other things, rotation wise, I thought kind of are similar things that we've talked about in terms of who comes in first and who comes in the second wave in the previous 3 games, really now. So I don't have anything more at all to add to the rotation. Are we going to get into some team stats now?
Yeah, we can definitely jump into that right here. Pull those up right here. Purdue in this one, obviously they win 73-66. They shoot 10 to 28 from three as a team, 35%. UCLA is also 35% at 7 of 20 from three. Purdue 13 and 19 from the free throw line. UCLA 9 of 11. Purdue wins the rebounding battle by 11 total. 4 more offensive rebounds, 13 to 9, and then 24 to 17 on the defensive glass, which leads to 17 to 9 second chance points. 28 to 26 points in the paint. Purdue wins that. 21 assists on 21 made field goals for Purdue, 10 turnovers compared to 6 for UCLA. So UCLA does win a little bit of the turnover battle. Scanning through, yeah, 20 bench points for Purdue to 16 for UCLA. I think that's a lot, pretty much all of them. Where do you want to go specifically?
I mean, I already did mention it, but just Purdue's ability to just absolutely dominate the glass, and they don't dominate the paint from a scoring standpoint. From UCLA, that was more of their guards and wings getting in there. Although Xavier did have a couple of really good drives all the way from the 3-point line, where he kind of attacked one of our bigs that was on him and just scored over him. And man, he's gotten a lot better from his Michigan State days. A lot, we make a lot about how much better Mara's got going from UCLA to Michigan, but like also give Cronin credit because he's changed Xavier Booker and ex Xavier Booker and his outlook on where he's going to end up in his career because he's a completely different player than he was at Michigan State. But nonetheless, I think when you look at this, right, as we talk about the possession battle, Purdue's -4 in terms of turnovers. So that's 4 possessions they gave away to UCLA, but offensive rebounding, they're +4 there. So that's basically a wash. But then when you take a look at points off turnovers and second chance points, Purdue has 27 combined there, whereas UCLA only has 22 combined. That's 5 points. Purdue wins this game by 7 points. It's not as simple as that, but when they shot as closely as they did from a field goal percentage standpoint, that's really it kind of boils down to how many points you score off of those stolen possessions, right? Those extra possessions, those extra opportunities that you have. At the same time, I think it's good again, right? Feels like we're getting to the free throw line more. Purdue goes to the free throw line 19 times. UCLA only gets there 11 times. So another game here where we're seeing Purdue get to the line a little bit more. And not only that, I guess they only end up shooting 68%. It felt like more than that to me. I guess that's because didn't Lawyer miss 2 in a row and then Smith missed one?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So like the guards who never missed 3 of them. So that percentage in my head was going to be a lot higher because our bigs shot really well from the free throw line mostly today. Clough obviously had some clutch ones. But yeah, that's what I take away from the team stats. Thank God for the Jack Benner for hitting a couple of threes and Fletcher for nailing his first 2 in the second half to bring that 3-point percentage up because it was pretty low at some points during this game.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the overarching theme for me from this Big Ten tournament so far. Like, just scanning back through really quick. Against Northwestern, um, they go 8 of 23 from three, 35%. Solid, not terrible. Against Nebraska, 10 of 31, 32%. Okay, fine. Again, today against UCLA, 10 of 28, 36%. Good, not like none of these games were won specifically because of three-point shooting. It's not that the three-point shooting hurt them in any capacity either. And what has pretty much won them is interior dominance. And if that can be the formula for Purdue, where you're getting these bigs to dominate the glass, to dominate points in the paint, dominate at the rim, right? We know that there's going to be games like even today, to maybe a little lesser degree, where Lawyer's going to get you close to 20. We know that there's going to be a game or two in the tournament where Brainsmith's going to put up 22 and 12. Although, again, the shooting splits are over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 games is again pretty concerning. But um, when Purdue is able to dominate the interior like they have these last few games, it increases that margin of error. And for people that have listened this season, I've talked about I think a good bit of like this team in general with the way they play, a lot of mid range, a lot of jumpers, like they're elite at that, but there's less margin of error, right? They don't force turnovers. There's just all these little things that they don't necessarily do super well to be able to like afford some mistakes, but dominating the glass, dominating points in the paint. Like those are two things that they can do to help kind of increase that margin where, right, you have a Brain Smith 5 turnover game and he goes what 1 of 7 from the field and it's fine. Like you can work past it, you can figure things out. But it starts with having to have dominant bigs and like Clough in his last we'll go 4 games, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 12 points, 9 rebounds, 17 and 14 today. Like he's been playing very well. TKR in that same stretch, 17 and 3, 19 and 6, 10 and 9, and then 12 and 10 today. So to me, that's the big thing. Obviously, you can add in Benter today too with what he did with 8 and 6. So that's that's how you at least give yourself a chance when everything else isn't clicking. Like that's something that should be pretty replicable, we think, for the most part, game to game. Obviously, some variance in terms of the total output, but if you can find that as your baseline, Purdue is so skilled everywhere else, you're going to have the spikes. You just got to figure out how to survive kind of the lulls, and that was what today was. You get a lull from more or less everything else. Again, Lawyer does a good job shooting from three, which can't be overlooked by any means. But you can just figure things out. And again, defensively, and I'm not saying it was an awesome defensive game, but we see more drop coverage from Purdue. We see them be able to take away the paints a bit more. I do think fans probably have to understand too at some point that like Purdue defensively is not ever going to be a team that's just like, oh man, lock them up and like they're not going to be Michigan's defense. That's just not in their DNA. It's not who they are. And what that means is they have to give up something. And sometimes it is going to be, Eric Daly, 17-foot pick and pop pull up twos, jab step fades. Like sometimes dudes are just going to hit shots and that's going to happen. But this defense, the way they've been playing, um, I think it's just, again, I think it's a higher baseline of like, right. In this one, UCLA takes 11 shots at the rim. They take 20 from three. So that's using my degrees here. So that's 31, and then so that's 26 mid range out of 57 shots for UCLA today. Like that's a winning formula defensively. Then at some point you just kind of hope that they miss. And again, not saying it was like perfect defense or anything from Purdue today, but that's an output that you can live with and have your offense be successful with. So um yeah, I know I ripped it for a while, so if you got anything you want to throw on, go for it.
Yeah, I did have a moment in my head, and I was like trying to clean up some of my thoughts on the notes, and I lost it here just a second ago. This is what approaching 50 does to you, Joe. But um, I guess kind of the next thing I want to ask you, because you did bring it up. Oh, I know where I was going. 3-point shooting percentage. As we look at the NCAA tournament, right? You're talking about trying to win 6 games in a row, or just if we're talking about getting to a Final Four, which I think most people would consider that to be a major success for this team. You're talking about winning 4 games in a row, and what you have to be able to do, I think, is play in several different ways, and you have to be able to sustain and not have a really off night, right? If you want some hope for that, Purdue has only shot under 30% 4 times on this entire season. One of those was against Iowa State, one of them was against UCLA. Those were both losses. Close one against Oregon, and then a Nebraska game that we still win by a good margin, right? They only shoot below 35% 9 times on this season. So, I mean, this is a team that is pretty consistent just in terms of their ability to at least shoot okay, right? We've had some teams where you would see these kind of, more variance where they might be under 20% one night and then shoot above 40% the next night, whatever. This team's been able to stay pretty stable, at least, kind of in that mid 30% range from three. Um, my next question for you, though, Joe, because you did bring it up, how concerned are you about Braden's shooting? Because we're going to have it at some point in the NCAA facilitation standpoint, but like the shot just, and not even just the 3-point shot, like that mid-range shot that has been money his entire career, it just seems off over these last 3 or 4 games.
I'm gonna be real. Like I am somewhat concerned, and I recognize like Braden more than most players in the country is like he's just a gamer, and like when you put him in the spot in March, like in the tourney, I think he's like somebody that can deliver. But like you kind of look, his minutes have started to really increase as of late, except for obviously today. And you go through the best really 5 games. Now he shot pretty well against Wisconsin, 6 of 11 from two, 2 of 7 from three. The other 4 games, now coincidentally, that was their only loss in this stretch. Um, 1 of 2 from two, 0 of 3 from three. 1 of 4 from two, 1 of 4 from three, 0 of 3 from two, 1 of 5 from three, 0 of 2 from two, 1 of 5 from three, and it is concerning. It felt like even today specifically, a couple of the shots I saw, it felt like he was aiming, like just like it wasn't like they were, I guess, forcing a little bit. Like it just felt, well, it just didn't feel as smooth as we've seen from him, and that to me is a little bit concerning. Now, I know they'll play tomorrow, but him getting at least 3 days rest, hopefully four if they can get that the Friday, Sunday in St. Louis, like that might just be enough, and especially. Right. I think Purdue fans will never ever overlook a first round opponent. But also being a little bit realistic, that's probably a game Braden doesn't need to go 100%, unless he really needs to. And so, right, you have hopefully 4 days off. Maybe you get a kind of a game where he can go 85%, 90%, and you still are good. Maybe that's enough time where you can kind of get it going. But yeah, just straight up, I am concerned about it. So, um, you hope it turns on and again recognizing Brain's a guy that he could go for 27 tomorrow, right? Like he's just
Yeah.
one of those players that can do it.
Yeah, Salty B does bring up a good point. Carson Edwards was ice cold heading into the tournament and then had like one of the greatest shooting performances in NCAA. Well, it was the greatest 3-point shooting performance in NCAA tournament history. So, yeah, certainly can turn around 100%. And I, you know, think that it will, especially at least I hope the mid range. I am kind of interested to see tomorrow because, like you've said, like we've shot okay in this tournament, but we've not had one of those games where we're shooting just out, lights out of the building. And I don't even mean like, excuse me, the peak of what Purdue could do, but even like some games that were relatively common throughout the season where they shoot over 40% from three and whatnot. So be interesting if that happened tomorrow. If Purdue just rolls out and is like just lights out from three. We've seen Benner get going at some point here. We've seen Lawyer get going. We've seen Cox get going. We saw Jakari knock, a couple down yesterday. If all those guys are just clicking, this Michigan team has looked a little bit more human this week than maybe at some other points during the season. So, I do think that injury to Kaysen is like hurting them a little bit in that second unit and just providing somebody else that can be a creator, facilitator, get downhill and score. So I'm interested to see that. The other thing, Joe, I started thinking about, we got sidetracked on like the minutes and the rest and the injury and everything else, and we never just were like, hey, Purdue's going to the Big Ten championship. Let's go. Right. Like we kind of got sidetracked by all this other stuff and didn't acknowledge like how awesome it is that Purdue's going to the Big Ten championship after everything that they've been. This is a team now that has a chance to accomplish one of their three goals. They always set out to win the Big Ten regular season, the Big Ten tournament, and the NCAA tournament, and they have this opportunity in front of them now. So I'm really, really hoping, because we've not had a great fan turnout here yet at any point in time during this week. I know there's some fatigue in terms of just like this team's been successful for so long. People have spent their money to go to different tournaments, whether it's Big Ten, whether it's NCAA, or go on some of these trips and catch Purdue in awesome venues where they've won these holiday type tournaments. But Chicago's a short drive if you live in Indiana. Ticket prices were relatively reasonable today. I talked to a buddy of mine. He got like a floor seat for $160 today for this game. Like they're going to be reasonable tomorrow, and it's only down to two teams, and this arena is monstrous. Buy a ticket, come to Chicago, support the Boilers. Hopefully they win a Big Ten tournament championship.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think the way you and you both just kind of process the game, it's always just like, all right, what's next, and recognizing like, all right, hopefully they win, knowing that March Madness means more, but at the same time, yeah, it'd be cool if they were able to, at minimum, right, you come away with the season with some sort of hardware, regardless of what happens in March, and that is something that can't be ignored. So, I muted myself for whatever reason right there. Do we want to jump into some of the players? Do we like? All right, there we go. I didn't know, and I didn't want to like if you were working, I didn't want to just like call you out specifically, but we are joined by Greg Braggs, the one and only, who I saw the clip of you making out with a mascot yesterday. I missed a lot. It seemed like in the last part of the show. So, Braggs, I'll throw it to you for your instant reactions from the game.
That's quite the setup there. Thank you, Joe. Yes, I was making out with a mascot yesterday. Shout out to Tommy Hawk. Maybe we'll share that video clip with you to end the show for those of you that are lacking context with that statement. But no, I appreciate the way you guys view the game. But no, I will not forget to bury the lead, and that is that the Purdue Boilermakers are headed to the Big Ten championship. And in a lot of ways, the last few days, and maybe you'll hear some sound from the locker room where I asked Fletcher Lawyer about this, but this really has felt like a big FU to the Big Ten, and kind of reminding everyone who these Purdue Boilermakers are. And I understand the fan base wears a heart on their sleeve, and so I won't begrudge most fans, not all, because I think some have crossed the line over the last few weeks, but we don't need to try to discipline fan behavior. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to sports. And these guys are big boys, can handle the criticism. That being said, let your applause be as loud as your criticism. And I understand this has been a frustrating last few months, but this has been a really great last few days. So I better hear you. I better hear you, Boilers fans, because these guys showed up here in this Big Ten tournament, playing a few different ways, playing some different, challenges, whether it's, Nebraska or here UCLA, who last night, yeah, they don't have Bilodeau, but if you watched them last night against Michigan State, they put on a show. and their perimeter guys were going off. Wasn't the same story for UCLA here tonight, and they certainly did battle to make it a game at the end, which I like because I like the way Purdue was tested and the way they responded to that adversity as UCLA got it down to a 1 point game, as there was only a few minutes remaining. So different tests. And quite frankly, I'm happy they're playing Michigan tomorrow. When I looked at it earlier today, maybe on its surface, most Purdue fans would rather play Wisconsin. Maybe a little bit of a get back from the senior day. But personally, if this team has national championship aspirations, I'd prefer them to play Michigan. And win or lose tomorrow, we're going to find out what's what in terms of where Purdue's at. A little bit of a last minute litmus test before they start the tournament. And now they can go in, I think, at this point with the full confidence that they can have a run to Indianapolis, which maybe a week ago didn't seem realistic. All of a sudden, it feels realistic, doesn't it? Uh, Pretty crazy how the game of basketball works. And so for me, I'm excited here for the next week to see where this team is seated, who they're going to play, and see if they can get to a second weekend and make a push for a Final Four because they're fully capable in every aspect of it. So I'm having a lot of fun. Can't wait to be back here tomorrow for the championship game here in the United Center.
Yeah, it should be a good one. And like Craig said, Michigan's a little bit more vulnerable right now. They're also so good that they've been able to play their C- game and still make the Big Ten championship. But at the same time, that like playing that against Purdue is very, very capable of beating that. Purdue's capable of beating Michigan at their, I don't know, it's not definitely not A+ game, I wouldn't say, but they're very capable of beating a very good Michigan team too. And uh, right, things are starting to definitely get on the right track. So Craig, if you had anything, jump in. If not, we can kind of start getting into some of the players, or if Braggs, there was anything specific you wanted to share from talking with the players right now. If not, we can kind of jump through the players and their stats, and you can add stuff in then, whichever. Just kind of.
Yeah, let's real quick just take a time out to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll do that. Purdue graduate and current Lafayette resident, BJ Rule has close to 15 years experience helping buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Lafayette and surrounding areas. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give BJ a call or text to set up an appointment to see how he can help you accomplish your goals. Your home will likely be the most expensive purchase of your life. Have the experts with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams on your side and let BJ help you navigate this process. Call 317-345-4600. Again, that's BJ Rule with Rainey and Company at Keller Williams at 317-345-4600. And do want to thank BJ. He's been a continual sponsor for a few years now, and appreciate everything that he does in terms of advertising with us on this show. If you have realty needs in the area, please reach out to BJ. Thanks again, BJ, for everything you do for us.
Yep, do appreciate them sponsoring the show. So let's get into some of the player breakdowns here. I think we'll pull up the stats here. I assume we're all in unison on who we need to start with, and that would be one Mr. Oscar Clough, who ends the game with 17 points, 14 rebounds, including 9 of them being offensive, 6 of 11 from the field, 5 of 7 from the free throw line, 2 assists, a block, a steal, and a turnover in 28 minutes of play. I mean, I just think maybe not from the jump, right? The first couple minutes he struggled, but after the first few minutes, he really settled in, and you could just feel the impact he had on this game, especially in that second half. Like it felt like he was just the guy that was keeping Purdue together. And then pulling up the stats, yeah, second half alone, he had 13 points and 7 rebounds, including 5 of them being offensive rebounds. So it can't be overstated again just how important Clough was for this one.
Yeah, and I wrote down my first thing in the notes is, does Clough have no legs? Because like he missed those first 2 or 3 shots, and it almost looked like he was just shorting everything that he was doing. And man, he answered the questions on that. And maybe he didn't have any legs. Maybe he just figured out a way to play through it. But after that, it was just a litany of notes of kept play alive, another offensive rebound, another putback, gets fouled, gets to the line, critical and hitting both of his free throws. I just like this was an all around game from Clough, and I'd have to go back and look because he's had some like big monster double games throughout this season. But in terms of defensively, offensively, rebounding, shooting from the free throw line, just activity on defense, like I don't know that Clough's had a better game this year. And I don't think I said it at the top of the show, but I'll say it again. Like there's no way Purdue wins this game without this type of performance from Clough today. Like he willed this team to victory. When it got close, he just kind of grabbed everybody else and drug them across the finish line in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a force all three of these games, right? It wasn't just today. And he set the tone in a big way. And so much is made of the big three seniors. But he's a senior in his own right and making his mark here, his first ever Big Ten tournament, just completely dominant. I mean, him and TKR just the way they are controlling the glass. I mean, you guys have talked about it throughout the season. Really, the wins and losses can be looked directly at how they're rebounding the basketball. How many second chance points are they getting? And Oscar Clough is obviously leading the way there, but TKR is right there, 1A and 1B, however you want to flip it with those two. But they have been dominant here in these three games. And obviously, with UCLA missing their big, same thing yesterday, or with Northwestern missing their big as well, and Nebraska just kind of being what they are in terms of, their personnel, it has played to their advantage. And you could see that. I mean, the big question was, I think, when the Big Ten tourney draw came to pass and you said, okay, this is their pathway, you could see a direct pathway to a Big Ten championship. But the problem was you couldn't trust this Purdue team. And they took what was clearly a favorable draw and a favorable path, and they've earned their way to a championship. And that's why I love tomorrow, because you want to win a Big Ten championship. There's nothing favorable about tomorrow playing Michigan. You got to take that one. And so I know sometimes some fan bases aren't in love with the idea of getting all the way to the championship game in terms of fatigue for next week. Well, we can worry about that in another year because they're here now. And so if you're there, you might as well go win the damn thing.
Yeah, and I think that's 1000% the point. Like, if Purdue lost today, to me, it didn't change the outlook on them at all. For at least for me personally, I also don't think it's like the most upsetting loss. But now that you're at the point where it's like, all right, one game and go win, like go win it, go win the Big Ten tournament, get some really good mojo going into Selection Sunday and Thursday, and it starts like it's this whole tournament's kind of started for the most part with Clough, and I think as we talk about right the 3 weeks coming up potentially for Purdue, what Clough and TKR have done like in this game and I think against Nebraska, like that can travel to any arena, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. Like sometimes jumpers aren't going to fall. Sometimes guys are going to be a step slow, whatever. Like, but what they're doing is you something you can just do every, and it's easier, obviously easier said than done, but like that's something you can do every single game. And it's just been really important for them to be able to do it. And I can pull up TKR stats here and kind of talk about him because, right, I think Clough was definitely the biggest area of impact in terms of down low, but TKR can't be overlooked, I think, in this game. 12 points on an efficient 5 of 7 shooting, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, all of them being defensive. Did have a nice assist as well, which was a big to big pass to Clough. So, Craig, I'll throw it to you. Like, obviously, Clough is going to take the headlines, rightfully so, for his dominant play, but it felt like TKR like also played a pretty solid game.
It did, and he did it in relatively short minutes for him, right? 27 minutes on this one. Dude, that like running 8-footer that he hit, the difficulty of that shot was incredible because he wasn't expecting that pass. And then he was like mid stride and realized like, well, like kind of got caught between do I dribble or do I shoot, and just flicks it up and drops it in. And if there is one takeaway over the last few games, it feels like that push shot floater has just come back to TK. And hopefully that is the case. And we continue to see that, throughout the rest of this Big Ten tournament, but also the NCAA tournament. But he was active as well. It was interesting to me that like, didn't have a single offensive rebound in this one. They were all defensive rebounds, but Then again, when Clough and Benner are eating up as many of those offensive rebounds as they were, maybe they just really weren't there for him to get. But he goes to the free throw line as well in this one and hits both of those. 2 of 2. That's a positive sign as we keep seeing our bigs hit from there. If we're going to get to the foul line more, it only matters if they actually make them. So, no, I thought Trey played well today.
Not much to add. I agree. I kind of added him with my Oscar breakdown, and I just think he's been really steady, making good decisions. I mean, you talk so much, Joe, about the short roll and these guys finding their man, not just forcing it, going to the rim. And obviously, those guys have had a lot of success doing that. But those skip passes to the outside that may not always be immediate three from the corner, but a kick to the elbow three, and you get that hockey assist. I think you've been seeing a lot of that from Trey Kaufman-Renn here these last few days, including tonight.
Yeah, and it's something just Purdue is. We've talked about it for what has it been? Maybe close to a month now. Where it's just like it's something that they're more and more comfortable with. It felt like today, especially like it was a lot of like offensively, pick and roll, swing, and you're looking for Clough or TKR just to bury their guy down low. And like CJ had the one pass, like I don't know how it got there, just kind of this quick wraparound, and part of it was because it was a very good pass. Part of it was just because Clough had his guy sealed so far that like Clough is able to get it, the ball threaded through three players and go up. And I mean, how many times do we see today just TKR Clough like basically seal their guy? And even if it wasn't an immediate score from them, it's TKR goes up and oh he misses, well Clough's right there for a putback or something like that, or TKR skips and swing, and now Lawyer gets a three or something along those lines. It felt bigger than even just the box score of oh they got points and rebounds. It was oh they kind of connected the offense and gave a little bit of a base when Purdue went ice, especially I mean Purdue went ice cold in the first half, but in the second half where it wasn't as bad of a stretch, that's just something that they could rely on consistently. And that's you to win, to make a Final Four. You're not going to win four straight games playing the same way. It's just not going to happen. You got to be able to. Sometimes you're going to get crazy hot from three, and sometimes you got to dominate the paint, and they did that in this one. Um, was there anything else on kind of the bigs? I mean, we can throw in Jacobson now if we wanted to, and just kind of wrap up the bigs.
Well, it was certainly his best game of the three games, Daniel Jacobson here today. I mean, there was a pivotal moment sequence in the game, couple minutes where he had a couple big time buckets and just was stronger with the basketball. I think that's obvious. Like the evolution of what Daniel Jacobson is going to be over the next 4 years. I don't think his freshman year is going to be a representation of what he is as a senior. But that being said, today he was much stronger with the basketball, taking his time. I know that's hard. When you're putting that ball on the deck as tall as he is, you have a liability to turn over. The turnover they had where they tried to give it to him at the top of the key, and go into their set series of unfortunate events. I don't know if I necessarily put that on Jacobson, but at the end of the day, I think overall Jacobson had his strongest performance of this Big Ten tournament today so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the first half was a struggle, and Jacobs I swear teams just shoot better when Jacobson's on the floor against Purdue, and it's not even all Jacobson's fault. It was like Booker pick and pop three, he drills it against Jacobson. I think like Clough comes in and immediately Booker misses, or like guys are just hitting some tough shots, and that's not to say like I thought the first half Jacobson still was a little bit definitely struggling a bit. Some of it is just like I think he's been on the unfortunate side of like right, he's playing with the bench, which is worse, and um guys are just making more shots. But then that second half, I do think, he got a 5 or so minute stint, and I thought he was much better there. And like you said, Braggs, there was the play where he's kind of pretty strong with the ball, kind of rips through two, is able to go up and convert. He has the block where you again see some of that rim protection be able to shine through. So I think right as have called out in the rotation the last handful of games, he's kind of been more on the outside looking in. And I think at this point it's whatever you can get from him is an added bonus. But right, if he can eat eight or so minutes at the center position, 8 to 10, and give you a bucket and maybe a block or two or something like that. Like that is something that's important that can add up. And you just kind of hope that he can build off of what the second half was.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add on top of anything you guys said there. So let's go ahead and go to the guard room. Fletcher Lawyer, let's start there. 14 points on 4 of 11 shooting, 4 of 10 from 3, 2 of 4 from the free throw line. Oddly missed those 2 free throws, which we just never see out of Fletcher. Also in this game, though, has 2 rebounds, 4 assists, one block and 2 steals in this game also. So I don't know. It feels like every game in this Big Ten tournament, the last game of the season at Mackey, it feels like he's thrown more stats into the box score, right? Outside of just shooting that we've seen. And I mentioned it after yesterday's game, but even with the amount of assists that Braden's racking up, it feels like the ball movement the last 3 games has been incredible. And I feel like it's been a different level than what we saw at any point in time during the regular season. But additionally, I just feel like CJ Fletcher, Jack, at different times are making intentional drives to get an angle to create and to facilitate for others. We saw Fletcher do it a couple times yesterday. Both of Jacobson's buckets comes off of Fletcher today. We saw that great CJ wraparound. There was another one where he drives and then kind of dishes in as well. When they are loading up on Braden, your other guys got to be able to do that as well. And I don't know. It just feels like I see more of that right now than any point in time during the season. Some games we see our bigs finish with a ton of assists just because of the way they're guarding, and we'll kind of play inside out, and there'll be a bunch of kickouts from Trey or from Oscar. You haven't really had one of those games too much during this stretch, but other people besides Braden are facilitating.
Well, let me ask you guys that. I mean, I was just, it's like when a clear out, when somebody's coming to the lane for a layup, I basically was just trying to box out. So you had the alleyway, Joe. But that's okay. I'll put the putback dunk. And let me ask you this, Joe and Craig, but since Craig did all the talking there, I'll ask you, Joe. If all things are the same tomorrow, let's say tomorrow is a microcosm of what we've seen the last 3 days. Who's your Big Ten tournament MVP after Purdue wins tomorrow? Fletcher Lawyer or Braden Smith?
Might be Clough, but out of those two,
No, I was going to say Oscar Clough.
out of those two, I
Okay,
think I would
that's
say
fair.
probably Lawyer. I think he's been just really instrumental again
It's It's so hard though, right? Because Braden right now has 37 assists in the Big Ten tournament through 3 games.
the most ever in a Big Ten tournament. Also,
Right.
he broke
And
the
and
record.
if he goes out, he needs 12 to tie the record. If he ties the record tomorrow with 12, which I hope he does, just because I want it to be done and over with before we get to the NCAA tournament, so it's not any sort of
Well, that was
distraction
that, that
during a
was
game or
that
anything.
was
But
the other
like,
thing I was going to say during my rant was I know there's people get annoyed by the conversation about the assists, but it's over now. He's going to get it. I mean, because between this Big Ten tournament championship and then their first round game, he is going to get it. So we can stop talking about it. He's going to get it. He's going to have 7 or 8 assists tomorrow. Maybe he breaks it tomorrow. I think it would be appropriate to do it in the Big Ten tournament tomorrow. Let the Big Ten celebrate it appropriately. But regardless, them getting to tomorrow's game means he's going to break the record.
yeah. Since you brought up Braden, let's go ahead and move on to him. 5 points, 1 of 7 from the field, 1 of 5 from the 3-point line, 2 of 4 from the free throw line as well. But obviously, the big thing, 9 assists in this one. He does have 5 turnovers. Joe, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of Braden Smith's game today? And if you do have anything to throw on to Fletch, feel free to go ahead and do so.
Yeah, starting with Braden, like I thought it was a solid game. I thought there was a couple times he makes a couple poor decisions. Also, like 2 of his turnovers was more so I think Sky Clark making incredible defensive reads than maybe Braden making like bad passes. Um, we talked about the jumper at the start. Like I'm concerned. I'm concerned that it's not it hasn't been there. And even like kind of going through his end of seasons in the past, it's kind of become a little bit of a theme. Like even the Houston game last year, he was 2 of 7, and the 2 games before that, he was 6 of 19, and 3 of 7 is not bad by any means. So, just definitely concerned there. But right, he's at the same time, he's still setting up everything. He's still doing what he needed to as a facilitator. I thought his late game defense was pretty good in this one, where he got the Trent Perry matchup kind of late in the game. So, uh, again, was this an A+ Braden game? No, but there's still a lot of positive that he brought. You just kind of you're hoping that and I think I trust him in this. Like I think he understands the moment more than most players of like he knows what buttons he needs to push at the right times, and he knows when he needs to conserve himself, and he knows when it's his time. And right, we're getting to the after, especially in the tournament, you kind of want it all to just break loose and him to just go. But uh, yeah, like again, just solid enough. He did enough for Purdue. He did enough, even if it wasn't an awesome game. He did enough.
Well, that's the biggest question, and I really pressed him yesterday. If you go back and watch our YouTube video that we shared of Braden Smith, talking in the locker room, the last couple games, clearly the defense is dictating that to him to pass and facilitate the basketball. And obviously the assists are racking up, 16, 10, and 9, I think, over the last 3 games. And so he's taking what the defense gives him. But it does beg the question, which I did beg the question to him multiple times yesterday, try to press him like, but then all of a sudden when it gets into clutch moments at the end of the game and you really haven't taken that many shots, how do you find that rhythm, to feel the confidence to take it? And obviously he can take a shot anywhere in the arena, anytime, any place. He's been doing this for 4 years, but at the same time, you got to kind of in the confines of a game, you have to get yourself going. And so that has not happened, and we've seen it over 3 games now where he's facilitating, they're getting a lead, but all of a sudden we need you to get a bucket, Braden, because nobody else can make the move on your own. And he's trying to go to that baseline fadeaway. Sometimes I think the angles aren't very advantageous to him. He sometimes, I feel like, is fading towards the baseline, if I'm going to get a little too technical, where it really makes, in my opinion, a very difficult angle on the shot. And if he's going to take that fadeaway, great. It doesn't always have to be on the baseline. Get up on that elbow on the free throw line. Get a little more centered on your shot. But he's just trying to find himself. But I do think because of the way the defense is playing him, it's causing him to kind of where he isn't in a rhythm when you need it most. And outside of that, I'm not concerned about it. I think the only question is, does he need to force it a little more early? And I hate using the word force because there's such a negative connotation to that in basketball. But at the same time, does he need to make an emphasis to take more shots early to make sure that he's in a rhythm when they need him most late?
And I think that's a fair question because he is somebody that just lets the game come to him, and he wants to get others involved early and then take over late. But with the shooting slump, it would be nice to see him, especially tomorrow, where Michigan's going to switch, especially when it's not Mara involved in the ball screen. Like Michigan's just going to pretty much switch everything. That means more isolation. That means, in theory, more Braden kind of self creation and pull ups. So, and you just hope to see the shots fall early because we know, right? We all know Braden on any given game can just go nuclear, and the jumpers can all fall. And when that happens, Purdue becomes an incredibly tough team to beat. And Purdue's going to need that Braden at some point. Like they just are going to. And um, yeah, I mean, we're running out of time. Like kind of crazy, right? Like we are at this point, we are guaranteed only 2 more Braden Fletcher TKR games in a Purdue uniform. Obviously, I think we do expect at least 1 or 2 more than 2, if not a handful more than that. But that's kind of where we're at. Is it's just simply about doing at this point. So, do you got anything, Craig? You're muted. I can hear you, but they can't.
Oh boy. Now I was gonna say let's jump to our last starter here because we're already rounding an hour. I know you got to drive home. I also want to get out and enjoy the Big Ten festivities here. So let's kind of start trying to wrap this up a little bit. But CJ Cox, 5 points, 2 of 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, hits his first one. Another game where he kind of like hits one early and then it kind of slows down from there. Does have the 4 assists though in this one also. Somebody put in the chat I can't go back and find it now. Maybe I started. I don't remember. But somebody put in the chat something about why does it always just feel like we look better when CJ's on the floor? And then Mexico Boiler said very quietly, CJ's a key player. When he plays better, Purdue looks better. He does not have to score 27 or 20, but when he scores a bit, it makes a huge difference. There's just kind of a feeling now to me of like, I don't even if he's not out there with the rest of the starters, if even if shots aren't going on, just as a connecting piece, we've seen him be able to increase just a little bit in terms of his ability to create for others, create the angles to get good passes to bigs underneath and things like that. Obviously, not a great game. I thought he was good against Dent in the minutes that Dent was playing in this one. Just knocks down the 1-3, does get the layup in transition as well. I'll just throw it to either of you on your thoughts on CJ here, and then we can get to the three guys coming off the bench.
Yeah, not too much to add on top of that. We know the shooting is kind of what it is. He can go crazy any game. He's had some poor shooting games at times. You still trust him to shoot the ball every single time. I agree. I thought the defense was pretty good overall, and what he was able to do there. The only thing, like other thing I haven't noticed, he only got one offensive rebound. Like he is so good at just flying in. He crashes right to the 15-foot line. Like he crashes right to the free throw line offensively, and that's where he gets it today. And it's off of a right. He's not going down there to try to battle the 6'10" guys at the rim, but he's like, hey, if there's going to be this longer rebound, like I'm going to be the one to go get it, and he gets it. And I forget exactly what happened after that, but I thought it led to some second chance points. And so just yeah, crafty that kind of probably goes with a little bit of just Purdue looking better is understands where he needs to be. Like he's at that level of you just trust him, right? Where even if the shot's not falling, we've talked about it for Fletch for multiple years now. Even when the shot's not falling, you just trust CJ to make the right decisions, to not turn the ball over, to do what he needs to defensively. And there is, especially on this star-laden squad that has got multiple superstars or high impact players, CJ can kind of fill in the gaps and connect everybody and be the glue guy.
I have nothing to add because I want Joe to get on the road and Craig to have a good time tonight.
All right. Let's go to our bench, and I'm just going to kind of read all three off. I thought we're going to talk about Jack Benner in this one. We're going to talk about Jack. 8 points, 3 of 3 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, 6 rebounds in this one to go along with 1 steal as well. If there was an energy guy in this game, I thought it was Jack. Like I thought his energy was popping as soon as he came in. I thought he was battling, fighting. I'm not sure if he got credited for one of the rebounds or whether it was just considered a team rebound or how they do that, but just fighting like crazy for a loose ball off of a rebound and forces it off of a UCLA player. So we retain possession. Obviously, it's always great when Jack knocks down his shots from outside. But I thought there was just so many other ways he helped this team. And I think he's become kind of a glue energy type of guy. And you trust him when he does put the ball on the deck that he's usually going to make a high basketball IQ type of play. Greg, you're our Jack Benner lover on this team to the nth degree.
Okay, can we phrase that better? Is there a better phrasing for that?
Greg, you're our Jack Benner aficionado. I wasn't insinuating you were going to try to make out with him like you do with mascots or anything like that. So go ahead. What did you think of Jack's game today?
I thought Jack was fantastic. And any questions I had yesterday about questions of his playing time, questions of his shot selection or priority shooter when he's open in the corner, when they're skipping it around the perimeter. Well, he knocked down a couple big ones today. So I think he silenced some of those concerns and showed his worthiness of still being on the court. I think he's the last of the layer. If you look at this roster and these guys starting to fill out into the roles that they're comfortable with. Maybe it's not the role they anticipated going into the season, but I feel like CJ and Jakari and Omer Meyer are really starting to fall into their role. And Benner has had a big role on this team, but I think it changes now because of the injury he has. And so to me, it was a huge game for him to build up that confidence because you want all these guys feeling confident going into March Madness next week. So this was a fantastic game to check that box. I know you got to get on the road, but we haven't heard from Jack Benner. I do have 4 minutes from him, and he does talk about his injury, and I do think it's probably prescient here in this conversation. So let's hear from Jack Benner himself in regards to the game that he had and everything that he's been doing. So here is Jack Benner from the United Center locker room. So how, obviously it was a big game for you. I guess first and foremost, how are you feeling? Because obviously you got the wrist and everything you're working with.
Right, yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, the wrist obviously hurts a little bit, but play through that. It can't hurt it any worse, so I feel like I'm ready to go.
Yeah, obviously these last few games you come up in big moments. How confident are you to feel like you're the guy to take the shot, or versus maybe kicking it out or whatever? Like in terms of your confidence with the injury that you're dealing with.
Oh yeah, I mean, Coach Payne always says play with confidence. PJ always says play with confidence, and I feel like anytime I have any space, they always say shoot it. So, and if they close out hard, just make the next play.
I feel like what's it feel like to hit those shots on a stage like this?
Oh yeah, it feels great. I mean, just to be able to hit any shots feels great, but it feels great to be able to hit a shot at the buzzer. That's definitely a good feeling.
Michigan tomorrow. What are the takeaways from the Mackey last very experienced played in games like this? Do you feel like that helped you guys in the game that's as tight as it is with the circumstances on that?
Oh yeah, anytime you have experience and older leaders, I always feel like that helps in close games because they've been in those situations before. So yeah, I think that will help us continue to help us throughout the postseason and really help us today.
I feel like it's obviously, I know it's been asked probably 100 times tomorrow, but now you have Michigan tomorrow. What happened in Mackey How much more excited are you to get on practice?
Oh yeah, I mean they got the best of us at Mackey, so I feel like we got to bring it to them tomorrow and try to get our revenge tomorrow.
What's the emotion behind this championship game for you guys? Like, you were preseason number 1, actually like winning the Big Ten tournament would be some kind of statement for you guys.
For you,
with Michigan coming into Mackey.
Even before the
emotional aspect,
do you feel like that you've shown your full potential in terms of being as the shooter that you are?
I mean, I feel like I've had a couple good games this year. I just feel like it's hard sometimes with my role, just inconsistent minutes here and there. But I feel like I haven't shot the ball great at times. I've been kind of streaky this year, so I got to fix that, obviously.
What's been the biggest challenge in terms of trying to find your rhythm? Obviously, you're an elite shooter. I think anybody that sees that when you're warming up, we can see that. But what has been the biggest challenge for you to find that rhythm that you can, obviously, that you've been blessed with?
Right. Yeah, I just feel like I've never really been in this role before where I've had to come off the bench and sit for a little bit and then come in and be expected to hit shots right off the bench. So I feel like I've really had to change just the way I've worked out and stuff. Just I think it was the Coach Payne always he had me in my workout sit down for a couple minutes in between drills and then come out here and just start shooting just to try to get me in rhythm as I come off just to be ready to shoot. And I feel like that really has helped me throughout towards the end of the year.
Do you feel like today was a big step in the right direction for you to kind of enter March and put your name on the map?
Oh yeah, I felt like I played pretty well today. I finally hit a couple shots. I had one go in and out yesterday. That was tough, but yeah, I finally hit a couple shots today.
You touched on it a little bit before you guys sort of actively done the math. The more productive the bench was today, the longer they can get guys like Braden and TKR off their feet and maybe have a better chance tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like when our bench comes in, brings the energy we did and shoots the way we did, I feel like that really helps, especially when we have 4 games in 4 days. I feel like when our bench comes in and does that, it really helps those guys be able to get a couple extra minutes rest and be ready for the next game.
The fact that wrist is that iced up after every game tells me it probably doesn't feel good during games. How are you just mentally blocking that out and going out and doing things like the offensive rebounds and things like that?
Yeah, I feel like they said I can't hurt anything, so just being able to go out there and do all the little things. Do all the things to help us win. I feel like that really helps us.
Is there a true diagnosis, like what they're calling it?
No, not yet. We haven't got an MRI or a CT.
You haven't done any imaging on it at all?
I got an X-ray.
Okay. The X-ray was negative.
Yeah.
How much is made of the fatigue? You mentioned, it's going to be 4 days, 4 games in 4 days. You guys are young, so how much is that a factor in terms of that fatigue?
Yeah, I feel like the guys that start and play like a bunch of minutes. I feel like they're obviously going to be really tired, and then the game's so physical now too. That wears your body out too as well.
Thanks so much.
So there's Jack Benner from the United Center locker room. I thought some interesting things. Obviously, when he was pressed on what the status of his injury is, said he had an X-ray, so there was nothing there. Yesterday, Casey confirmed, in terms of his reporting that surgery may be needed in the offseason. So I think that would lead you to believe there's, I don't want to speculate, but it's obviously not bone. If when X-ray, you're looking at bones, right? And so if he hasn't had an MRI, that's going to look at ligaments and muscles. And so that's a different level that they still have to find out, but he hasn't gotten any certainty on that, or maybe he just didn't want to tell us, which I'm totally fine with. And then I think the other aspect of it too is the revelation that, how he's, the inconsistency in terms of his shooting and getting comfortable coming off the bench, and Painter kind of utilizing the, hey, during practice, we're going to rest you for X amount of time, then bring you out and see if you can handle that. I think has helped him tremendously.
Yeah, and I think getting within this game too, and Craig already hit on it a bit. Like he's just important for his energy and for rebounding, and he battles on the glass. He's somebody that more than maybe anybody else on the Purdue team seems to just always be in the right spot. Like just always be in the right spot. It's I don't want to say the cherry on top because he is a shooter, like at his core, that is who he is. But like it's almost like an added benefit now of just like, oh, cool, he also knocked down a couple threes. But like regardless, he's gonna be in the right spots. He's gonna hustle. He's gonna again just he doesn't have an assist in this one, but there's multiple plays where he catches, rips, and just maintains the advantage. And so maybe it's he drive, kick, swing, and he's getting a hockey assist or just whatever. And all the little intangible things. Benner is just so elite at, and we know what type of shooter he can be. And it's tough, obviously, with the wrist injury, but there's always the chance that he just has the random 4 or 5 from 3 game in March.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me, so I was talking to Mike LaTulip, who, if you guys don't know, Field of 68, and also did some work for CBS. Is that right, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah. But he played, I think, he played at University of Illinois for 3 years and then Wright State. We were talking about it and the fact how many times Benner goes to the ground and hits with his wrist and comes up kind of holding it. And I just conversation, I don't know medical terminology or anything like that. He said the way he played with some guys where the bones at the base of their like palm laid in differently, like in terms of how it was there, and were kind of bonier and stuck out more. And he's like, those guys were always coming up like that because of how they hit the floor or whatever. So no idea if that's the case here at all, but really interesting to see that um, just kind of the process of how they try to get guys ready from a workout standpoint for guys that are going to be a little bit lower volume shooting. A couple of chats real quick, and then we'll wrap up the last couple of players, do our game ball and play the game. Double D Sports 499 says for Braggs to get himself a Foster's in the name of Oscar Down Under Clough. Here we come. 7 more boiler up, bear down. Great coverage, fellas. I'll make sure he uses that because I'm not letting Greg go home until he goes out with me for at least a little while. I already found a place to stay, Greg, if you're going to abandon me and leave me in Chicago. So we're good to go there. Also, Salty B88 says we are getting closer and closer to just a few more Bits shows. Also, everyone show your love to these 3 guys and what they sacrificed to bring us this content. Thank you, Bits. Thank you, Salty B. Absolutely appreciate that. Anything that you guys do from a super chat standpoint does help us travel and get to all these venues. So we very much do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on to our last 2 bench players. Omermeyer comes in 5 points, 1 of 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 1 assist in this one. Jakari Harris, 3 points, 1 of 3 from the 3-point line, 1 defensive rebound, 1 steal. I can't believe he was only credited with 1 turnover because he did force another turnover in there as well. I guess it probably didn't go down as a steal. And then he almost had that other one, but they did end up reviewing it and calling it off of the other player. I'm just I'm going to start here, and I'll go to you first, Joe, and then Gray, you can chime in. Like, I could not believe just box score plus minus is not the end all be all. We know that. And there's a lot of other factors going into this. When I pulled up the box score, though, I could not believe Jakari was minus 17 because, like, I thought he gave some really good defensive minutes in this game, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah, I am with you. I thought the defense was pretty good. Right, he knocks down A3, 1 of 3. We know he's not going to be super high usage offensively, but no, I thought the defense was similar to CJ. Like I just thought it was pretty good overall. Um, he just kind of, I guess, plays with all the bench players for most of his minutes, and I guess that's the difference. Where, right, that's another testament of why, without any context, plus single game plus minus doesn't always mean much. Because yeah, I thought. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Wow, Jakari was amazing this game," but like I got nothing negative to say really for what he did today, and for somebody in his lower role, low usage, like that's kind of all you're asking for the most part.
Yeah, like I said, moving on. I like I said, I'm doing a little bit of back producing, trying to send you some stuff. So I just figured let you guys finish this out, take it home for me as I do a little behind the scenes producing. And I could have easily taken myself off the screen to do all of this, so I didn't have to say anything.
You're good. Because we do want to get your, game ball and play the game here. So I'm going to go game ball first. I'm going to take the easy layup here. It's got to be Oscar Clough. He was an absolute beast. We've waxed poetic about him already in this game. Just drags this team to victory across the finish line. Greg, who's your player of the game? Cannot pick, of course, the same person that I did.
Who'd you pick?
Who do you think he
Clough.
picked?
Oscar Clough. Well, I mean, obviously, I think Fletcher Lawyer these last 3 games has been outstanding, and energy and hustle and just really finishing his career on a strong note. And I'm happy for him because if you remember a year ago at this time when we got to tournament play, he hurt his elbow, right? And so he's able to kind of finish this season on his own terms, where last year I don't think he was able to do that to his fullest potential. And he's showing just how lethal of a shooter he is and the presence that he has. And I just, in terms of the FU mentality that this team has, and obviously Fletcher dropped the F-bomb yesterday on Big Ten Network, that they're starting to get a little bit. I think this team is giving a little bit of an FU to anyone that doubted them. And I think Fletcher Lawyer in general, and I know he doesn't listen to the noise, but at the same time, I've heard a lot of noise around Fletcher Lawyer for 4 years now, and it's nauseating. He's the greatest 3-point shooter in Purdue basketball history. And he's part of the winningest senior class in Purdue basketball history. But for some fans, you would never know it by the way they talk about him. And for whatever reason, that wing shooter that Painter is known to recruit, and the players in that role that flourish over the last 10 years seem to be picked on by a certain segment of the fan base that maybe I shouldn't give as much airspace to in my little rant here. But at the same time, I love to see Fletcher shut them up real quick because they're not giving him his flowers here, but they'll be the first to speak up if he doesn't have a good game tomorrow. And so I'll be the first to give his flowers here. I want to give you guys a little teaser. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm going to play the first 10 seconds because we have Matt Painter, Fletcher Lawyer, Jack Benner, Braden Smith. Craig will share all this stuff to the YouTube later because he knows how to do this and I don't. Shout out to Craig and his hard work. But Fletcher gives our show a shout out. So I had to give – here's a little tease at the start of Fletcher Lawyer's locker room with here at the United Center. Brian Newber was standing next to me.
Your clip yesterday when you were like, "We just want to fuck it." Sorry,
that was great.
we just want to win.
said it.
I
stopped myself. Everybody made a big deal.
It was
Just let it fly. Just let it fly. You're on 10 second delay. They can do
Here's
it.
for Braggs and Sands. Fuck it.
You know, you can swear on my channel.
You and Braden.
There's a little teaser. You get about 5 more minutes with Fletcher there, so make sure you stay tuned for the YouTube posting here. Maybe it'll be a few hours later. Craig will get to it when he can. Don't force him to do it because we're going out, but that was a great shout out from Fletcher, friend of the program.
Yeah, damn it, Greg. Now I've got to like change the child rating on this YouTube video when I put it out.
You could probably get away with it.
Yeah, it's 1. It'll be fine.
I didn't hear nothing.
Joe, player game ball.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Benner. I really do think he was obviously the 2 threes was big. I thought the hustle was big. I thought the energy, the rebounding, all of it. So I'll go Benner. And then as we kind of snake this, that does mean I get first play of the game, in which case I will take about 2:45 left. The lawyer kind of backside steal, hits ahead immediately to CJ in transition, puts Purdue, I believe, back up 68-64. And I wouldn't call that the dagger, but I think it was a play where it was just kind of like, all right, Purdue is probably going to win this. I think it was just a very important play. Braggs, I think you would be up next for play of the game.
That's a tough one. Oscar Clough layup up 1 to put it back to 3. I mean, that was the play of the game, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it looked like
off offensive rebound. Yep.
Off an offensive rebound. Thank you. But I was blacking out at that point because I was getting so upset that because honestly, Purdue had so many today was not about defense. They played great defense, in my opinion, or as connected as they possibly could against a team that can be as deadly as UCLA is today. To me, if they had lost, it was going to be about the long spurts of offense where they could not facilitate a bucket. And maybe it wasn't because of execution of offense. It's because they just could not get the shot to go down. Sometimes they were able to get the look they were trying to find, and they just could not make the shot. And so when it got down to 1, I'm like, gosh, these guys have let UCLA hang around way too much, and now they're going to blow it. And instead, Oscar Clough rebound, put back up 3, and that to me was the play of the game.
Yeah, so I was gonna take. Honestly, I was just gonna take the Oscar Clough offensive rebound where he gets fouled and then hits both shots in the 1-and-1 that I think pushed it to 5. But that's just, even though that's probably true, the play's just a little bit too boring. So I'm going with the play to end the first half. Omer Meyer makes a skip pass all the way across the court to Braden. Braden just does a little barely touch pass to Benner, and then Benner shoots like a 28-footer from 3 that pushes the lead, I think, back to 7 at half, if I remember right. So, UCLA obviously comes back and ties this game up eventually in this game. So in terms of like the winning play, maybe it's not the biggest from that standpoint, but in terms of the coolest play, I thought it was probably the coolest one we saw of the game. Joe, you always take us home at the end of the show. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the like button. I'll let you take us home, Joe.
Yeah, we will be back tomorrow. It is a 3:30 Eastern time tip.
Yes, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central.
Man, that's so late. So late compared to like when Selection Sunday starts. But 3:30 Eastern time tip, CBS Purdue takes on Michigan for the Big Ten Tournament Championship. Again, we'll be live at some point tomorrow. We'll have to discuss a little bit of what we're going to do with potential post game and then Selection Sunday show and all that. So if you turn on bell notifications, hit the little bell icon, turn on notifications, then you'll get notified when we go live, and you won't have to question because you'll just get a quick notification and be like, oh, they're live, and they're going to be talking about probably a little bit of everything. So appreciate everybody tuning in and all the support that you guys have given as we head into the final Big Ten tournament game tomorrow, and then it is off to March Madness. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you all back here at some point tomorrow.